Parents have likely noticed it, but now there are more numbers to back it up. New data tonight from the Education Department's National Center for Education Statistics shows a steady decline in children reading for fun. A national survey asked 9-year-olds and 13-year-olds about their reading habits. The data found the share of 13-year-olds who read for fun has declined by nearly half since 2012. 9-year-olds who read for fun declined 16 percentage points in the last 13 years. In both groups, students who read for fun scored higher on standardized tests than their peers who read less. Overall reading test scores, however, stayed about the same between 2022 and 25. Joining us tonight to discuss the findings is Ebony Walton from the National Center for Education Statistics. Ebony, thank you for joining us tonight. This test has been conducted since the 70s, but one thing we didn't have to worry about 50 years ago was the influx of those smartphones and other devices too, both in the classroom and at home. What impact has that had on the decline in casual reading?
Thank you, Jim. Yes. These trends that we've been measuring since the 1980s, in this case, this particular question since the 1980s, doesn't necessarily capture the other types of habits that students have during their time for fun. It's important to note that we've asked how often do students read for fun on their own time? And as you can imagine, there's so many other activities that students are engaging with. Unfortunately, these data don't point to what those other activities are. But it does show, compared to the 1980s, this significant decline in the amount of students who report reading for fun every day.
And does reading on a cell phone count, or on a laptop scrolling? That doesn't count as reading a book.
Well, the question again does ask how often students read for fun every day. So we don't necessarily capture if it's reading in a paper book or reading on their tablet. We don't have a sense of how students are interpreting that question. But for the most part, in terms of what students say they do for fun, reading for fun is not necessarily the activity that's been reported as high as it was in previous years.
Can you talk about why casual reading is so important? It's supposed to be fun, but it also makes for stronger students, right?
Absolutely. There's so much research about the practice of reading and about the love for reading, and how reading not only has relationships with reading achievement, but achievement overall. So we know that it's very important for students to engage with text, to use their brains to engage in reading passages. And as you said, scores do show a relationship, not necessarily causation, but a relationship that the more students are practicing reading, the higher their scores are. So over time, we've seen reading gains in the early 2000s. We have hope and confidence that as students build on their reading skills, we'll see gains again. But for now, these data are not showing significant changes in these recent years for reading performance.
And what can educators and parents do to encourage their kids to read more in their free time?
Absolutely. I think that it is important for everyone, for schools, for educators, for parents, even just the communities, to really embrace reading and just the different worlds that you may engage with in reading. We're not saying what types of books to read, but just to use those muscles to engage in text so that you can understand important text in the future. We always have to read every day. So it's very critical that students are able to comprehend written words. And we believe that this trend line, that's why we captured this survey question for so long. We believe that it's important context.
So important. We want to thank you for sharing your insights with us. We really appreciate it. Ebony Walton from the National Center for Education Statistics. Thanks again for joining us.